Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and ladies, welcome to Tatami Talk. My name is Juan. This is my co-partner Anthony. This is a Judo podcast for Judo players by two Judo players. So, Anthony, how you doing? I haven't seen you since, what was it? Sunday?
Sunday? Yeah, we had that barbecue, right? That was pretty good turnout. And it was a hot day, but you weren't there to set up, like setting up that tent, that canopy for outside.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I missed out on that. Oh, my bad.
We lost the instructions. So like finding touching the metal bars and trying to put them together and like, oh, it doesn't fit, but it's hot. So we're like, ooh, put it back down. And it was like, try this one. It didn't work.
You don't have gloves in your car or nothing? No mechanic gloves?
No, now that you mention it, I should probably keep some around. So
I always do.
But we deep cleaned the dojo. We cleaned the bathrooms, cleaned the locker rooms, cleaned the mats and everything. And the gym area we have, like in your picture in the background, that whole back area, like we wiped.
Lovely.
Yep.
Right behind me.
Yeah. So we cleaned that whole area up. Yeah, it was nice and fun. It'll be nice if we do that again sometime. So.
Well, that's kind of something that I thought turned out really well. We had to start off really small, but then it got bigger at the end. The one thing that I thought that we could have done that we were going to do, but because it was so hard to put up, was I thought we were going to put up 2 tents. Mm-hmm. And because it was so hard to put up 1 tent, you're like, screw it. 1 tent's good enough. Put everyone under 1 tent. And I think that was got a little crowded and cramped after a while.
It ended up working because some people came early and then they left like early, and some people came later. So we kind of had people like rotating out. Yeah. And some of the kids went to play inside the dojo. So
all the kids went to play inside the dojo. Yep. But what I was thinking is that, and I was talking to our head sensei Philippe about this, that if the pandemic's still the way it is and we can't go inside or rent a place to do the holiday party this year, maybe we'll do a holiday barbecue again. You know, It'll be in the winter, so it won't be as hot. Maybe 1 tent would be fine then also. Just do it outside. People wearing masks. You take your mask out, you eat. People wear masks all the time. Like I was wearing my mask, trying to be safe as possible. And, just trying to do something that get the dojo together, get the kids class, the adults advanced class, the beginners class. Just so everybody knows each other and mingles. And, it's a unit. It's a family. It's a judo family. Again, Vin Diesel again. It's about family.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. And, things felt relatively normal. It's a breath of fresh air. So
it should be. We're outside, but there's a homeless camp near us, so it's not super fresh.
Yeah. Well, at this point, I'm kind of used to them already. So
today we want to talk about how old is too old to join judo. Now, I know in judo, we always talk about sayings like, you're never too old. Judo's for everybody, too young, too old. And we talk about how young someone could be, how at our dojo, our old age used to be, you had to be minimum 5 years old. Now it's more, we want you to be 6 years old. But I know some of the really good judo competitors internationally started judo when they're like 3 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did 3. So just give me ideas for if or when I ever have kids, when they turn 1, okay, that's how you do this. So just toss them around. But now you go to the other end of the spectrum. How old is too old? And the reason I thought about this, because we had a member of our a new beginner join. He was a brown belt, I believe. And he's not a youngish gentleman. I think he's in his 40s. Would you say?
Yeah, it looks like he's in his 40s. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say he's in his 40s and stuff. And he's really enjoyed judo. He wants to get his dad into judo. I was like, okay, well, how old's your pops? So I was like thinking 20 years, so 40, 50s, maybe his dad's 60. Oh, my dad's 70 years old. 70 to start judo. Now, this isn't like I did judo when I was younger. I'm a black belt or I was a brown belt or something. I'm taking top. This is like, I'm going to start judo from scratch. All right.
I think he was 78 or close to 80. I think
80. Oh my, I thought it was like, I was trying to be nice.
Like
80.
Yeah.
72, 75, maybe 80, close to 80. So that is more question. Starting judo from scratch at late 70s, almost 80 years old. And like I said before, this isn't like someone that's been a brown belt or is a black belt getting back into it. This is starting from scratch.
Yep.
Do you think that's too old to start?
No, I mean, assuming you talk to your doctor first, right? And you don't have like, for example, some people I know in their 80s, they've had they're in a wheelchair, or like they've had multiple back surgeries,
5 hip replacements already,
Yeah. If that's the case, you have a history of injuries like that, then obviously probably not a good idea. Or if you do get on the judo mat, maybe you would just do some of the drills. You're not going to be able to do everything, no matter what. Even if you're really healthy at that age, I don't think you can do everything that all the young people are doing. And I think that's going to be the theme of what we're going to talk about. It's basically, as you get older, you have to set your expectations differently, and you can't expect to do what the Olympians are doing on one end of the spectrum, right? But you also can't expect yourself to be doing the same thing that all the younger people, even like the 50-year-olds, you can't do the same thing like the 50-year-olds are doing.
Well, I know at our dojo, we have some crazy 60-year-olds. We have at least 2 60-year-old, 2 black belt 60-year-olds. One's still an international competitor. One's a part-timer, but he still likes to go hard on the mat. And they're at 60 and they're black belts, and they still do randori.
Black belt? I thought it's a white belt.
No, his black belt's just so beaten up and tattered and torn. It's white. It's actually kind of cool, went from black to being looking white. And actually,
they offered to buy him a new one, and he was like, "No, I like my white belt."
I think we gave him a new one time. We're like, here's a new black belt for you. He's like, oh, thank you. Never worn it. Didn't even wear it the day we gave it to him. I'm not gonna say who it is, but if you know the dojo, you know who it is.
Yeah. But sometimes he asks me to help him put his belt because his shoulders are so messed up that from all the years of training hard. He's one of those 6-year-olds that trains hard, hard. And
he's a stone. Like it's like a stone statue. Like if he doesn't want to get moved, you're not going to move him.
Yeah. So his shoulders, he can't reach around his own belt anymore. So usually he has to like kind of toss it around like a lasso to the other side from the back. And sometimes he'd ask me to help him, like hand the belt to him from one side to the other. And I touched his belt. Like it doesn't feel like a belt anymore. So tattered.
What does it feel like? A piece of rope?
It feels like a hemp rope a little bit. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of weird, but.
So we have that in our dojo, one black belt that's really old, beat up, but he still does randori, he does the chikomis. And we have another black belt that's in his 60s as well, I believe. And he's an international competitor still. But the way he trains super smart. And I love the way he trains because I can't do it. He trains he gets tired, till when he gets tired. Once he gets tired, he feels his technique's going to get sloppy. He's going to get hurt, and he's just not going to do good judo. So he'll do warm up, uchikomis, tachiwaza stuff, some newaza stuff. But as soon as he gets tired from any of that, he's done for the day. Even if he doesn't make it all the way to randori, he'll be like, okay, well, I didn't get the randori today. I'm too tired. I'm going to go. And that's super smart training. I wish I was that smart.
Yeah. When I was going back to your question a little bit, when I was in Japan, I think I talked about it in one of the previous episodes, is that one of the small dojos we went to outside of Yokohama in a small town up on the hill, this guy was like in his 40s and he hasn't done judo in like 20 something years, he said. So he was coming back to judo, and it was his like first week back, and he brought his mom with him, and his mom was like 65. And she just started judo, and she was having a blast, like just practicing ukemi. And he was basically saying, yeah, I want my mom to learn how to fall. She's getting older. So, I mean, judo is not all about throws. I mean, some people will disagree. So yeah, well, it's only when it comes to time to make those cheesy philosophical quotes, people will be like, judo is about learning how to fall and get back up,
Why do we fall? To learn how to get back up. You know?
But it is true. Like judo is not about throws only. Like there's the philosophical and aspect of judo and the falling part too. So I think maybe you won't get the black belt, but still learning the falls are really valuable.
Well, that's very true. Like there's been many times where like, there's a funny story about when I got hit by a car jogging one day. When I got hit by a car, I didn't just like do karate and like get on my horse and hit the car. No, I got hit by the car. I flew a foot. I did a forward ukemi, got back up, and I was like, oh, my hip. And there are people around me like, oh, are you okay? It's like, I don't know. Oh, we saw you roll. That was crazy. I know, but I'm a judo player.
Yeah. So, and if you think about it, what other, not even martial art, think about what other place out there would teach seniors how to fall and prevent getting hurt or dying.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a few workshops, but it's kind of like a self-defense workshop. You do it like once or twice. It's like useless. You have to keep practicing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
how old is too old to start judo? Would you tell somebody, this is okay, let's go back to this then. This kind of goes back to our coaching clinic we went to, that where if you get a senior member, now, how old does someone be that you would say, I would like you to get a physical and talk to your doctor first before joining judo? Would you tell someone in their 50s? Would you tell someone that in their 60s, 70s? Definitely if they're in their 80s. I would be like minimum, if they're in their 70s or 80s and you want to start doing judo, like go get a physical, talk to your doctor first. 60s, I'm not too sure if I would mandatory unless they had like some big issues that they told me about.
I think you would start off asking them what else are they currently doing and what history of injuries they have. So if they're like, I'm a wrestler, or I used to wrestle, but I didn't do anything for like 30 years. And yeah, go get a checkup. Right. But if they're like, oh, I've been doing jujitsu this whole time, or I've been a triathlete runner or something like that, then I'd just be like, do you have any history of injuries, like back injuries or anything? And if they're not, then just start them off. I mean, it goes back to teaching, right? If you teach them in a properly, you don't throw them into getting thrown and doing like 1,000 uchikomis like on the first day or the first week, then I think you'll be fine. You just start them off slow and see how they adapt to it. Then there should be a pretty low risk of injury if you just have them practice basics of ukemi for the first month or two, and you go from there.
So we get them in the judo. Okay. Now what age range do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about like 60-year-old, a 50-year-old, or an 80-year-old?
So let's talk about 30s. Like, okay, I know that's not even old, right? Like, especially if you're early 30s, I don't think you're old. I'm early 30s, but I think mid to late 30s is when you start seeing the decline. So it's still not too old to start judo, but that's when you start noticing your body's changing. You're not recovering as fast. You're slowing down. Everyone seems to be moving faster and you just can't move the same way you used to. Right. So I think in your 30s, that's when you have to start learning how to adapt to these changes. Cause I think once the changes have settled in, it's already too late to start learning, because you want to learn how to train this different way before you actually get old, right? Quote unquote old. Yeah. So I think that's in your 30s is a good time to start learning how to listen to your body, and even in your 20s, but we know how most 20-year-olds are, right? So
I heal up in a week. What are you talking about? Broke a leg, whoop, back together. Look at that.
So yeah, start listening to your body. Notice these changes. Like for example, for me, I hurt my neck all the time from people cranking my neck in jiu-jitsu and other stuff, right? So I found that I'd had to tap earlier and earlier because I'm losing flexibility. I'm not recovering as fast. Like the neck cranks, I usually get over it in like a couple of days. Now it's like taking a week or two, and I still have like a tight shoulder right now. So next time I'm going to tap earlier. That's something I learned, right? Like I have to tap earlier now. I can't wait till the pain fully sets in for me to tap like I used to. I just have to know how far my body can contort before I get hurt. So, I've also incorporated more stretching now in my 30s. So I think 30s is when you start adding more time to your warm up, adding more stretching into your routine versus just strength training. Cause that was all I did in my 20s was just strength training and, just training hard. But now in my 30s, I'm incorporating more recovery, flexibility stuff. And then I think I'm just going to have to keep ramping that up as I get older.
True.
You're in your 40s. So how about you?
40,
like we can talk about 40s now.
I'm damn near 40. I ain't 40 yet. All right. I still have a few months. All right.
So is what I'm saying, kind of matching what your experience is?
It's more that it matches my experiences and stuff. So as you get older, you have to warm up certain ways. Like sometimes like in class, we'll have one of the younger guys in their 20s, like, okay, do a warm up. And they're just like this 5-minute warm up. Like, all right, guys, start doing stuff. Like, bullshit, get the F out of here. Yep. I got to warm up my knees still. I got to warm up my neck still. Because I'm older, I have a lot of miles on me. I have somewhat bad knees. Okay. I have to warm up my knees. They're also going to lock up on me because of like some things that are torn inside of them. My neck, I have some compressions there. So I have to stretch out my neck more, do some more neck exercises to warm it up, move it side to side and stuff. So I doesn't get a pinched nerve. I don't hit someone the wrong way when I come inside. And then I'm like, oh, can't feel my arms for a second. But yeah, it's about warming up properly. And it's funny. One of the guys in our dojo, when they were doing our little black belt or black belt corner warm up, he's like, yeah, when I was younger, I always wondered why all the black belts go in their own corner and warm up by themselves. Now I get it. I still need to do some more warm ups.
Yep. Yeah. So one of the things that I guess we're kind of skipping ahead, but I'll mention it now, is as you get older, you can't do, like you said, it takes longer to warm up. And the reason for that is, one, your body just can't move the same way as the younger people. And two, you have to do what we call low impact warm-ups, because like you said, your knees, your joints just aren't the same. So you can't just run around, do high knees, do burpees and jumping jacks and all that kind of stuff. That's like roughen your joints as you get older. So you have to do other stuff, which isn't as, doesn't get your blood flowing as fast. So the time spent warming up is supposed to be longer, but you have to do more lower impact dynamic stretching exercises to warm up.
I know, like, it's funny, like one of my things that I like to warm up my body with is just doing forward ukemis. To me, doing forward ukemis, it just rolls up my back. It helps me stretch it out and stuff. Like that works out for me. Like, so when I hear some people say, oh, well, I hurt my back doing this, so I don't want to do forward ukemis, I tell people, you'd be surprised if you do a good, nice, easy forward ukemi, how much it will help you and stretch out your back. Because it's just a weird thing. You just do a forward ukemi, it just rolls out your back. Now, for me, at least, it helps me out. And I tell people, like there's certain weird things that I do because of my injuries, like how, like, pushing your neck this way, push your neck that way, hang off the see right here, we have these bars in the back of the dough I'm pointing at. I hang from those walls. I let my back just straighten out. Sometimes I'll hang upside down like a vampire to let my neck just stretch out sometimes. And it's just little things that you got to know your body. And this is talking about knowing your body in my 30s. Like, I messed up my knee in high school. Okay. I messed up one of my knees, my senior of high school, messing around. And that's why my wrestling career got messed up from that. So I've had this since I was in high school. So I've had to work around this. Then I messed up my other knee in judo. Then I messed up my neck from just compound injuries of just other things. And it's funny, when I figured out with my neck, I always thought I tore like my cuff or rotator, or I just tore some of my back. I always thought that was just a muscle tear. Then I found out, oh no, it's because of my neck compression. That's what it is. That's making me feel that. It's like, oh, so now I do neck stretches for it. But again, that was all in my 30s, and I'm getting older. I have to train smarter. And now we get members that are, like we said, now let's go up a little bit. Money members that are in their 40s and want to start judo. And sometimes they can't work it as hard. And we had one
sign up on Tuesday, by the way. One of the kids' parents decided to sign up, and he looks like he's in his 40s. That's
cool. Have they done martial arts before or judo before?
No, they haven't. I think he's just been very intently watching the beginners class sometimes that his son is in, and he's getting interested. So he just, like, it's been 3 or 4 months since he signed his kid up. And now he yesterday asked me for a form to sign up.
That's great. So it'd be a father-son or father-daughter?
Father-son.
Father-son judo. It's awesome. These two come at home together.
Yep.
Well, so let's go back to where we're talking about 40s. Now you get to 40s and you see people doing all this stuff. And this is when it starts to get more complicated, because you can do tachiwaza. You can do some pretty good newaza still, because it's not super impactful. But once you get to the hard stuff and you start to get to randori, that's when it gets hard, because my body isn't doing what my mind thinks it can. And now I have to be smart about it. Because I think, like, you already get to your late 30s, it's getting to a point where it's like, okay, me personally, I can't do hard randori every week like I used to when I was a kid. I can do hard randori once a week, sometimes twice, or even I have to see who's here and be like, okay, who's here today?
Who's safe to go with?
Exactly. If I go with him, I have to fight tournament style. I have to go full blast with him. I go with him, I can work on little things, help them out. You got to figure that out as you get older, because I can't go like tournament style, all class long. I'm gonna be beat up, hurt, and be taking ibuprofen and Tylenol and Epsom salt bath for the next 2 days. Okay. So it gets to that point where, as you get older, it's like, so you're in your 40s, you see judo, you want to start judo. It's a great time to start. There's nothing wrong starting in your 40s. It's just, you're going to get that point where you're going to see everybody doing things. You're like, I want to do that. But you can't. And I hate saying
it's
this.
Just something you have to accept. Some things you just can't do.
You can't do it. And I ask sometimes when I see these 40-year-olds, mid to late 40-year-olds in our class, Are you okay? Do you need a breather? It's okay to sit down, but you're mentally be like, I don't want to sit down. I don't want to give up. I'm not that old. And you're not. But Father Time, how they say, time and tide waits for no man. All right.
Yep. Father Time is undefeated, is what Dave Roman says.
Is that what he says?
Yes.
I always like the old saying, time and tide waits for no man. It's like, oh, it really does it. It don't give a shit about you or what you're doing. It's going to keep going.
Yeah. So 40, like you said, really things start hitting hard. You got to really adjust. And I think 40 is also usually when, I mean, this is anecdotal and look at my family members. And my dad was pretty athletic. He used to be the kind of guy that would wake up early, do like 100 push-ups and sit-ups, and I would sit there and do it with him and stuff. Yeah, every morning he would do exercises and everything. And he was a great swimmer, super athletic, but nowadays I see it slowly decline. And I think part of it has to do with one day he just realized he needed to sleep more for one. And then he just can't do the like 100 push-ups or 100 sit-ups anymore, you know? And a lot of people fall under that trap. It's like, oh, my body can't do it anymore, or I'm injured, so I'm just going to like not do it. And it's just kind of like a snowball effect. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of stop doing it instead of doing what you can, or breaking it down into more reps, or changing your exercise. Instead of doing push-ups, you could have like walked more or jogged or rode a bike or something. But instead of changing your routine, you just kind of stop doing it. And then that's how you see people usually like gain a lot of weight. I mean, hormones has partially to do with it too, right? But you gain weight and then you just like lose your athletic ability that way. And I think that's a big turning point in your life. And you just gotta, like I said, learn to adjust earlier. So when that happens, you're not going to get hit by a wall, this like truth and reality, and just snowball and turn into this piece of lard, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the frustrations, the joke that I can't remember who told me, I think I heard it at a coaching clinic one time, is that when good judo players get older, the reason you don't see a lot of them turn coaching is because I was a world champion, I was a national champion, I was this, I was that. I don't get thrown by some brown belt. I don't get thrown by some just not roided out, but just some like young testosteroned up teenager or 20-year-old brown belt and be like, I was a world champion at one time. Now I'm getting thrown the brown belt. And it's just one of those reality checks you have to get through later in life of shit's going to happen. You're not going to be the same players you used to be. And that goes into then, let's go older then. So we talk about 40s, you know, you can still do everything, but you have to take stuff easier. You can still do randori. Maybe not as hard as you want to, but you can still do it. Now 50s, I think it's going to be much more selective randori. Again, tachiwaza, newaza, uchikomis, yakuseku geiko. You can do all that stuff still, but it always comes down to randori. How hard and who can you go with?
And your risk tolerance too. Like if you want to go hard, you just gotta know like you're taking a risk, you know? Like
and if you're starting judo, now you're gonna start, let's say you're starting judo at 50 years old. Now, when I see a 50-year-old starting judo, I'm thinking, okay, they can still do pretty much all I'm going to call them bumps because of wrestling, all the bumps, but all the ukemis. You can do forward ukemi, side ukemi, back ukemi for the most part. And I would ask person, again, have you had any injuries, something wrong with your back? Because the way I like teaching ukemis, and you've seen this before in my class, is that I like you fall yourself, and then I like adding a little height to it. So you fall over somebody or you jump over something. At 50, are you okay falling off of somebody? Are you okay doing one of my favorite back ukemi practices that your partner's in all fours in referee's position, down on all fours, you sit on like a bench and you just fall backwards. It's very simple ukemi, but for someone that's had back problems, just that little, what would that be, like 2 feet maybe? 2 feet off the ground. It's
still an impact,
could be something hard for somebody. And I need to know that.
Yeah. And also you can only like think of it as like in a video game, you get like a health bar, and every fall you take is like a little bit of health reduced, and the bigger the fall, the more health you have. Yep. So I think as you get older, that health bar gets lower, and then basically the amount of falls you can take a night or even a week, counted as a week, is reduced. So, I mean, when we were before COVID, when we had a lot of people and we were training hard without masks and everything, we were taking like 100 to 200 falls a night at the advanced class.
Yeah.
There's no way you can do that as you get older. You probably get like 50 max, 50. Yeah, probably 50 throws like on without a crash pad max. So you're going to have to be really selective what kind of falls you take and what you want to do with someone. And if you're doing Nagekomi training, then maybe pull out that crash mat, so that you can extend the amount of falls you can take that night. Because if you're doing Nagekomi training with someone, you just spent all your falls on the static throw. When for me, I would prefer to do like a dynamic, like movement based throw without a crash pad. I would spend it on that. So it's kind of like I have this limited amount of resource of falls, and what do I choose to spend those falls on for that night or that week? So you have to start thinking of it that way.
Well, also, I think at around 50, like at 40, you need to be honest with your sensei, your instructor, your coach, or whatever they call them, wherever you're at. Be honest when I ask about how you're doing. Okay. At 50, I think you need to be honest and even come up to me and tell me like, hey, sensei, I can't do this. Hey, sensei, I need to take a rest.
Yep. And if he forces you, just find a new dojo.
Yeah. Because I may push a teenager or a 20-year-old like, hey, you got another round in you. Hey, you can go again. But I'm not going to be pushing a 50-year-old. Nah, man, you got 5 more minutes. Get out there. Kill him. Like, no, I'd be like, dude, you're tired. All right. Sit against the wall, catch some air. It's all right. Get some water. Because I understand at 50 as an instructor and stuff, you take these classes, you learn these. At 50, it's not the same as a 20-year-old, as a teenager, as like a 5-year-old that just started. Say, I want some water. No, not yet. Or but as an adult, be like, sensei, I really want to continue, but I can't do it. It's like, it's okay. It's all right. You're honest with me. You talk to me. Yep. Sit down, take a rest. I'd rather you be here than quit on me. And I think that's how most senseis are, most instructors are. I'd rather you be here and be honest with me than quit the class.
I also think it falls under an instructor to talk to the new student. If they're a new student, talk to them and be like, hey, when we do the warm-ups, I don't expect you to do like 100 jumping jacks or do everything that everyone's doing. Just like do what you're capable of. And for these certain exercises, do this variation or something that's less impact. So that's up to the coach and instructor to also be knowledgeable about that and take the time and be upfront to tell these people, hey, like you don't have to do this. Versus right now, a lot of dojos, they do everything that basically everyone's doing the same thing. They're like, we're going to do 100 jumping jacks. We're going to do burpees. We're going to do these like insane squats. Like I've seen people do static squat holds and stuff like that. And it's like a one size fit all kind of thing. Which kind of goes back to what we talked about, how we have a problem with teaching recreational judo for everyone in judo. It's way too competitive focused and yes, targeted for young people. And this is one of those things, like you just have to adjust the way you teach and to match it for everyone and communicate with them. And this is also why I think when I visited a lot of other dojos, I'm not going to name which ones, I see a lot of people on the mat, but when it's a lot of adults, a lot of them sit out, just like, especially black belts, like you said, like they just sit around like helping instructing, but they themselves don't train. And part of it, I think, is because their bodies just can't do the same things, and yet they refuse to adjust.
Well, here's something. This is going a little off topic. Now, I remember when you told me that you were in Japan, was it in the Kodokan? There was like a corner that just had older judo players working on Ashiwaza and Newaza, right?
Yes, they just had so the little corners form for many different reasons. Like sometimes someone decides to show a technique or they're discussing a technique, and the people just like walk on over and like a little corner gathers. But there's also like an old corner where just a bunch of older or injured judokas just warm up for like a long time. Like when I say long time, like 30 minutes to 40 minutes of just stretching. And
they just want to be on the mat. They just want to be there. They're going to think that feeling that they can still be there and do it.
It kind of has an open mat kind of vibe. I mean, it is open mat technically, just really formal, but they just kind of talk to each other, joke around, and then like try out techniques. But they always start off with stretches and warm-ups that last a long time. And then they go on to do a Newaza. Like there was a couple of people there that had a few people there actually had red and white belts. I mean, red and white belts here is kind of rare. It's usually like a head of the dojo or something, but at a Kodokan, like it's a lot of people have it. Let's just say.
You've been judo your entire life then. That was a joke me and some of the other black folk talked about how this one guy we were watching a video, he looked like he was in his 40s and had a red and white belt. I was like, how's that possible? He's not a world champion. Who is this guy? How does he have a red and white belt? How does this happen?
That's funny because one of the instructors that was in charge of the open mat, the randori thing that day was a young guy that looked like he's in his 40s with a red and white belt.
Yeah. And I was like, is this real? How does this work? But in Japan, I guess like you start younger, you know, you get your black belt when you're 16. Yeah. You continue going, then you can get your red and white. But I'm like thinking I can't remember what nationality this guy was. I can't remember if it was European or what it was, but I'm like, I don't know this dude. He ain't famous. Who is he? Has a red and white belt.
So yeah, they were in the corner doing nawaza and just like talking, like hanging out. There weren't any throws involved. And which is funny because if you go on YouTube and you look up Kodokan high dan rank basically means high rank, right? But the high rank implies that they are old. So if you look at Kodokan high dan rank competition, you see like 60, 70, 80-year-olds competing. And they all do all these crazy sacrifice techniques like yokogake and stuff like that. How the hell are they taking those falls? It's like, because when you get older, you have to rely on those sacrifice throws to throw your body weight into the throw. And it's like, okay, what about the uke? Like,
well, okay, here's a funny story. All right. So this had to happen maybe because of the pandemic. So let's say it's about 3, maybe 4 years ago. I was at the Winter Nationals and I was with our head sensei, our dojo head sensei, Gary. Okay. Sensei Gary is in his 80s now, I believe. So I think Sensei Gary may have been in his late 70s, early 80s when this first happened. There's these 2 old guys that I swear to God have to be in their 70s themselves, maybe 80s. These 2 old guys that I see at every Winter Nationals and they just fight each other. They only fight each other. That's all they do. Is 2 old dudes on the mat. And I always tell Sensei Gary, hey, you should go fight those 2 guys. You could take them. I think you could take them. And I joke about it, but it was kind of really scary when it happened now. Like now I joke about when it happened. It's scary. I swear to God, 1 minute I was looking at, it's the 2 old guys fighting. That's awesome. They're still out there. I look over here, watch a match. I come back. They're both laying on the floor and there's stretchers coming out and there's the paramedics coming. Or the what's the paramedics? What do they have? EMTs, whatever they had there at the clinic to help them out and stuff. And I'm like, what happened? Did anyone see what happened? Because 1 minute they're standing. I look away, local match, come back and they're both on the floor laying down. So that's just crazy. Like 2 guys in their 70s competing, they have to go to the hospital and stuff. One of the guy's daughter was freaking out. And I could understand because you're scared that your dad's out there. How do you have that conversation anyways? Dad, you're 70. I don't think you should compete anymore. I know what I'm doing. Don't tell me what to do.
So I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. But if you look at Western and especially American judo in particular, there's a lot more strength involved in general, right? The Japanese are much looser. And again, if you go look at the high dan rank Kodokan competition, you'll see that like none of them are dying, like you said, like because they're kind of mostly relaxed and they're try to be relatively explosive for their age. But I've seen some veterans compete here, like in the US, and it's like they're so tight and they're like so much. You can see the strength involved. It's just like old man strength, and it's just like that's probably not good for your age, you know. But I'm not there yet. I'm not that old. I can't really judge, but that's something I just noticed. Watched comparing the 2 types of tournaments from 2 different countries. But do we want to keep going up in age? I think
so let's go to, so now let's go to the next one. So now you get to someone that's in their 70s. Now let's say it's somebody that's in their 70s that's done judo before. They're a black belt or they're a brown belt. They come into judo. They know what they're doing. So you don't have to worry about them as much because they know what they're getting into. And again, with that, very light ronder at that point. At that, like we have our crazy guys at our dojo that go against everybody that don't want to stop because like we're old dogs. We don't know how to stop. Can't teach an old dog new tricks. But if it's someone's a brand new white belt, never done judo before, coming to judo, they're going to do the same stuff as always. And it's going to always come down because it's going to come down to randori now. And it's going to come being thrown. Because if you're in your 60s now, you're probably not going to take that many throws. And like Anthony said, you should probably only be thrown on a crash mat.
Yep.
Unless you're like very healthy 6-year-old. I know there's some really healthy 6-year-olds. I get that.
Yeah.
But there's some very unhealthy 6-year-olds that think that, well, I played football in high school or I did swimming while I was in high school and stuff. I was very fit then, but you're not the same. And it's about that reality of like, I can't do this. I'm going to see everybody doing it. I want to do it myself. But as a coach, you have to be like, I know you want to do this, but you have to slow your roll, step down, stop.
Yep.
Okay. So it's very hard to tell someone to do that. When they're at their 60s, again, at that point, I would definitely, at my opinion, if it was a brand new white belt, I'd be like, go see your doctor, make sure you're healthy enough to do judo. And if you can't, please bring me a doctor's note. That sounds so funny. I'm asking a 6-year-old for a doctor's note, but I gotta protect myself. I gotta protect the dojo. I gotta protect everybody here. And I don't want you hurting yourself or having a heart attack on the mat. That'd be very traumatic for people to see someone having a heart attack on the mat.
Did I tell you the story about a guy that?
Oh my God! You saw someone have a heart attack on the mat?
No, he showed up to our dojo. He was clearly really old, right? And I was watching him randori with one of our black belts who was in his like late 20s, and he was yelling at the guy, "Throw me! Don't go easy on me!" And he's like, "No, I think I'm okay." And then the guy's like, "If I die, then I die." And like he was like, I'll be glad to die on the mats. And we're all just thinking like, please don't die on our mats. Like
death wish. This guy want to be death by judo.
The guys had like open heart surgery before too.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, people who are from my dojo who are listening knows who I'm talking about. But yeah, I think you also, we mentioned like adjusting your judo. Like you have to adjust your technique, whether it's going to doing more newaza, or if you have like, let's be honest, you're not going to be doing Uchimata when you're 70. Like,
hey, you don't know. You could be a tall 70-year-old. All right. Ashiwaza. But I was going to say is that there's an old judo joke is that the older you get, the more ashiwaza you do. And around 70 is when you're pretty much doing all ashiwaza. And there's nothing wrong with that. Ashiwaza is great. I love ashiwaza. I'm in my almost damn near 40. So, but when you get to a 7-year-old, you're not going to be teaching them how to do, you're not going to do 10,000 ippon seo nage with them. You're not going to do 10,000 tai toshis with them. What you're going to do is show them how to do great ashiwazas, really good kuochigari, ochigari, deashi, kuachi, just showing all the, just showing really good ashiwaza technique, good foot sweep techniques where they can use their arms and legs and have to focus so much on putting someone on their back, you know?
Yes.
There's a funny story of, it probably goes into our 90s thing, a 90-year-old doing judo, but our old head sensei at Hollywood Judo, Sensei Frank Emmy, me and my friend Matt were one of his 2 last students, and he would still, as a 90-year-old, still put on his judo gi, get on the mat. And because me and Matt are somewhat tall, I'm near 6 feet. Matt is like 6'2" and stuff, or 6'1". He would always be like, "You guys are tall. You have to do Hizaguruma." And he would like grab us and show us Hizaguruma. Imagine this 9-year-old little Japanese man like just grabbing you and showing you Hizaguruma. And I'm just like, this is nuts.
Yep.
Just 9-year-old man showing me Hizaguruma in his full gi and everything.
Yeah. So if you did judo and you're not a beginner at 70, you did judo before, maybe like when you're younger, you did Uchimata, Haragoshi, like Ogoshi, whatever the big throws are. You're just going to have to maybe start working on foot sweeps, like in general. And it'll be a lot more timing based, attacks versus before you might have been relying more on strength. So, I stopped telling beginners this because I don't think they understand, but I used to tell them that like the chance of a success, how successful a technique is, it depends on your timing, strength, and technique, right? So if you have shit technique, but the timing and the strength is just there, you can still throw someone. It might not be beautiful, but it'll work. So the same thing goes. Like if you have shit technique and shit timing, if you're really, really, really strong, you can still throw someone. I wouldn't call it judo, but you can still throw someone. And then the best is when you have all 3, and or even lacking strength. That's when you get those effortless throws that you kind of try and follow all the time because the timing and the technique was good. So almost no strength was needed. And that's, I think, what everyone should be aiming for.
So let's step it up again. Let's go. So we went to 60s. All right. Now we went up to 7-year-old. Now you get a 7-year-old that's on the mat. Now I've worked out with some 7-year-olds that are already black belts.
I thought we were talking about 70.
We're talking about 7-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 60s, 70s. All right, I'll go.
Yeah, let's combine that. Let's combine it. Okay,
so let's say they're in the 70s now.
Yeah.
To me, if someone's brand new and has never done judo before and they're 70 and want to get on the mat, they are only being thrown on crash pads. Okay. Unless you're doing unless they're working with another brown belt or black belt that's helping them out and can throw them lightly on tatami, they should only be thrown on a crash pad, some sort of crash mat, crash pad, whatever you guys have, whatever thin thing you guys use that to throw them on, because you do not want to throw somebody full force in their 70s on the mat. Yep. In my opinion, it's going to be very tough, someone in their 70s to start judo from the beginning. I know there's something that I saw you do with one of the white belts the other day, is you had him do a forward ukemi on the crash mat.
Yep.
And I thought that was really good for someone older. The guy's not that old. He's like, 22, would you say?
The reason I told him to do on the crash mat was because he had trouble relaxing. He was stiffening up the whole time. So I was like, just do it, like jump into the ukemi, but I want you to focus on relaxing. So I wanted him to focus on relaxing on the crash mat. But we should use it. The crash mat is such a useful tool that's underutilized. Like people just see it as being able to throw someone harder, basically, like for Nagekomi, which I think is just only one way of using it. But go ahead. So we're going into that. If someone's in their 70s, just started judo, if you have a crash mat, maybe have them do ukemis on the crash mat. Have them do a back ukemi on the crash mat, so not landing directly on the mat. Because again, you don't want to break something, pop a rib, pop a vertebrae, break something. Even though, even at our dojo, we have a subfloor that has not a spring, but we have these really foam brick subfloor bottom, hardwood floors, 2-inch mats. Our mat is great. It doesn't hurt that much to get when you fall on it. But for someone in their 70s, it's going to be a lot different. Okay. Yeah. Someone landing in their 20s to kids to adults, to someone in their 70s, it's going to be a lot harder impact on them. So I would suggest use a crash pad a lot with them. And then when it comes to doing tachiwaza stuff, tachiwaza is fine, but maybe just no throwing unless it's on the crash mat. I know they're going to be like, well, throw me. I want to feel what it feels like. Have them work with somebody that knows how to throw. Don't put them with a brand new white belt beginner. You may be like, oh, but they're at the same level. No, they're not the same level. The other person may be younger, stronger, more headstrong and stuff. I don't want the person to get hurt. Yep.
So that's when you have to work them with another black belt. Maybe they only work with a black belt. They work with a high level brown belt that understands this. And again, when it comes to randori, I don't think they should be doing any randori personally. I understand they're going to want to, but I don't think they should.
I think they just, again, have to adjust their expectations, right? Like, for example, the other day, little Matthew from our class has a neck injury right now. So I told him not to take any falls. So he just went with Big Matthew and they did kumikata. That's one thing you can do, right? That's still judo. I think grip fighting. Yeah. So doing grip fighting is one way. When I was injured, or when I go with the older people in our dojo a lot because I'm injured. So I have pretty good self-control. So I'm able
to... He likes to beat up on older people. That's why.
Yes,
so if Matter comes to your dojo, if Anthony ever comes to your dojo, watch out. All right. Yeah.
So I don't go on like doing uchimata or muscle them, but I try to get them off balance. Like, you know what I mean? So I just I get them moving. I do some ochi kochi feints, or like try to get them to like fall slowly on their butt, instead of those big throws, like working on my timing, getting them off balance, getting a feeling of movement. That's still part of judo. And I mentioned it before, but to me, judo isn't just about the throws. It's because there's so many, like Aikido has throws, wrestling has throws. Like, so what's the difference between judo and those art? Like,
well, you don't see guys wrestling into their 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. You might see a guy wrestle as a coaching position.
Well, I'm talking about what makes judo different from other grappling martial arts. And to me, is judo has this way. It's all about exploiting your opponent's structural instability. To me, that's what differentiates judo from the other stuff. Like that kazushi, like the structural instability, is not formally taught that way in any other grappling arts. The other ones are just like, you need to grab here and then you need to like just throw them like this, basically. Like that's essentially what they're doing. And judo just has this way of explaining that. And I think practicing those movements, like we talked about, is part of judo. So you don't end up falling or getting thrown, but at least you're getting them off balance, and you know that if I really wanted to throw them, I could possibly throw them.
Okay. Anthony here talking about picking on old people.
Yeah. Get those old people off balanced.
No, but it's different. When you're getting to that older age, 60s, 70s and above, it's not about doing judo as a competitor, as someone that wants to go compete at nationals or winter nationals. Even though you could, there are those categories open up. But I think it's more of doing judo for the fun of judo and learning it for the technique, I'm going to get all fill out the mental aspect, the spiritual aspect of judo, being on the mat, wanting to be around people, maybe even the social aspect of just people with the same mind. Like, I love grappling, you love grappling. We can be here hanging out. I'll talk about grappling. And you may not be a black belt, but if you want to be there and you talk to your instructor, your coach, your sensei about what you can and cannot do and have realistic expectations of what you want from it, then I don't see why not you can't join. It's just, you're not going to be doing hard randori. Okay. You're not going to be fighting every day in class. And if you have to sit out, it's okay. It's okay to sit out. But as we always say in judo, judo's for everyone. And it really is. It's just, you have to lower expectations almost as you get older. I don't want to say it's such a mean way, but that's just how it is.
Speaking of which, there's that book I actually lent it to the Sensei Gary, and I passed it around a few people in the dojo. It's called Falling Hard by Mark Law. In the UK, in some countries, like in UK, it's called The Pajama Games. And the guy who wrote that book was a journalist in the 40s and who started judo in his 40s and got his shodan in his 50s. When he talks about it's like a love letter to judo. And I recommend everyone to read it if they haven't read it. But he started late and he got his black belt. So, yeah.
Was that it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was it. I just recommend people reading that book, basically. And it's just to show starting at 40 is not that late, basically. And he's still able to get his black belt.
I don't think starting judo at 40, 50, even 60s is that late. It's just, you have to have an expectation of what you want from it. If you want to get your black belt, it's just going to take longer. You're going to have to take a different route to get your black belt. You're not going to get competition points from going to compete. Maybe you get competition points by going in and a reffing. You're going to become a ref guy. Maybe you're going to go and become like a table person to help at the tables, or you're going to be someone to be a good coach, get it that way. It just sometimes takes longer with time and grade or competition. I know everyone wants the competition points. Everyone wants the glory of going to competitions, getting first place, trophies, all stuff. I love trophies. All right. I'm into that all the time. I love it. If a tournament has a trophy, I'm like, ooh, trophy tournament. I love that. But it's going to be different aspects of how you're going to get into judo and what you're going to do from it, what you're going to get from it. So I don't really see any problem people joining late. The only problem is that you have to be honest with yourself and honest with me as an instructor.
Yep.
Now, the final one, what if somebody is in their 80s? That's gonna be crazy. Someone in their 80s walks into your dojo. Someone in their 80s walks in and says, I'm interested in doing judo. What do you do? Do you let them in? Or do you say, like, sir,
I would buy life insurance on him. Here, sir, I need to get this term, life insurance first. Sign me as the beneficiary on there, please. No, but I would tell him, like, what we just said, like, hey, just so you know, what you're going to be doing is very limited. And just like, the primary goal is to keep you safe, but it's going to be a lot of falling. Just telling him that our goal is to make you really, really good at falling, and with some techniques added. And again, you're not probably never ever going to be able to do uchimata or those big throws you see on TV, but we'll try and teach you some of the foot sweeps and everything like that. And definitely get a physical.
Definitely get a physical. Also get your head checked. Maybe also. No, because I say this because I've worked out with a lot of different age people, Like right now at our dojo, Sensei Gary is the oldest guy that we have there. Okay. Sensei Gary is in his early 80s, right? Is he? I know exact age.
Yes, 83, 84. Yeah.
Yeah. But I met Sensei Gary when he was in his 70s. And this is also, he's a black belt, or he did judo his entire life, never took a break from judo, never stopped, never got off the mat. And he was still doing uchikomis. And
he was doing uchikomis like up until like right before COVID too, I think.
Yeah. He would put on his gi, do Ichikomis. He would do his squats using a rope for assistance and stuff. Do dumbbell lifts and stuff and sit-ups and just doing ashiwaza, uchikomis. And he still has that pull that you can feel it. Like he'll grab you.
He's so strong. His grip and his pull. Oh my God.
Yeah. You're like, damn it. So like, it's just like your pull now, your 80s is just like this. Like, how is it when you're in your 20s and 30s?
Yeah.
And back when he was competing back in the day, they didn't have age and weight classes fully. What he said, they would just line you up. Everybody just line up according to height and be like, okay, U5, and U3 or so. So when he was a teenager, he was going against adults at that time. It wasn't because he was a tall guy.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, okay, we're having the teenagers here and the kids there. Just be like, oh, knock Mike over right there. It was just like, everybody line up. All right, you're about the same. You're about the same. So it's just crazy. But he's another one that just never stopped doing judo. And this goes to show you, he changed up his game his entire life so he didn't have to stop. I don't know if he ever even took long breaks away from judo. I think since Gary stick with judo the entire time, as far as I've known his entire life. Might be corrected. I don't know, but
he's definitely like a role model for me. Like I want to stick with judo like he did. And
yeah, he just,
me too. Yeah.
Like we said, changed with Sensei Emi, the instructor when I was there, 90 years old, a 90-year-old little Japanese man, still putting on his gi, still teaching ashiwaza. And again, ashiwaza. He wouldn't be like, oh, Juan, do ippo-sanagi. He's like, yeah, I have to learn ippo-sanagi. But he was demonstrating ashiwazas up to like pretty much, I want to say, to the week he passed away, he still was putting on his gi the week before. He would still come to judo, drive, put his gi on and get on the mat at 90. And he's another one that never stepped away from the mat, never took a hiatus or went away from judo.
Yeah. I've mentioned before, I want to do this for the rest of my life, but I have no illusion that I'm not disillusioned to think that I'd be doing randori till I'm 80 or 90 or whatever. I know, but I still want to be doing uchikomis. Like I've seen old people doing uchikomis at the Kodokan, like in their older age. And that I want that to be me, like get on, do some uchikomis, maybe like teach a few beginners, a couple of throws in a crash mat and call it a day, maybe not even randori, like, so that's to me still fun and still involved in judo itself. And it's just part of the journey,
That's the goal. The goal is to do this for a lifetime. Like they always say, judo is a marathon. It's not a sprint. We want to do this for our lives. I don't
want to be one of those guys that put on the gi on, do the warm-ups and then like sit there and do nothing, like,
I have seen those senseis too. We had I'm not going to say his name, but one of my old senseis, he would go in there, tape up his fingers, do everything he would do, tape up everything, like look like a mummy, do warm-ups, maybe an uchikomi or two, bring water out for us, and then disappear. That's all he would do. Do everything, put everything on.
That's what you want to do. Fine. Yeah, but I'm just saying personally, I wouldn't want to do that. Yeah.
All right. So is there anything else you want to bring up, Anthony, about training as an older person?
Yeah, I think one topic we didn't talk about that we hear a lot is ego, right? People always hear, leave your ego at the door when you train. Like, but when people think about that, they always think about like, not being a dick, I guess, or, how do I say this? Not being a dick or basically not pushing past your limits too hard. But we all know people think about that, but they always go harder than they should. And they always like, I'm going to call out some people here, but like Matthew, for example, he got hurt. And then I told him like, don't take any falls or take a month off. And he was like, oh, I feel fine now. And he went and took a fall. And now he's like, oh, my neck is sore. So it's like people, you tell them something and it's still because their ego is there. And like ego is not always a bad thing, right? The ego is what causes us to push us beyond our limits, causes us to go out and learn new things, causes us to grow in a sense, right? But you have to control it. Like there's a limit to it, and getting hurt is like an example. But as you get older, hopefully you get more wisdom, more wise, and gain more wisdom and learn to control your ego and know that you can't push yourself past this point. But being such a competitive sport, judo, and being also how it's taught and the people that you surround yourself with when you train judo, a lot of people tend to get peer pressured or like their ego gets control and they go beyond what they should be doing instead of just saying, no, today that's it. So very like that sensei we talked about that only does what he thinks is he's good for the day and then he leaves. Like very few people are able to do that, even older people.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the old judo saying, mutual benefit. Judo is supposed to be mutual benefit. You get to practice, I get to practice, I throw you, you throw me, we both bow and walk away. That's what it's supposed to be. But I just get this mindset of it's just the thing that we don't want to lose. We have this ego. I don't want to lose this guy. I don't want to lose that guy. And I admit I have that sometimes. Like there's certain people's like, okay, I don't want to lose this guy, or I can't let him throw me more than once or something. But as I get older, I understand it's like, I'm not the same. Like I said before, I can't go into tournament mode every match I have at the dojo. It's dojo. It's practice. It's what I'm saying. It's practice. It's not tournament. It's practice. And I know there's the other saying like, oh, well, you got to practice where you want to fight. You can't practice where you want to fight all the time. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. You can't. All right. I guess you want to be an Olympian, national champion, a world champion. Yes, I get that, but steel sharpens steel, but there's a time and place for that. I get it.
Otherwise, the way that you practice, the way you practice that you're going to fight is by being crippled. You're going to fight.
Yeah. That's like you'd be messed up,
Yeah.
So like even now with me, if we have someone this is something that kind of developed this past, I'd say maybe 3 years, give or take, is that when I have a visitor coming in now that's a brown belt or someone's done jiu before, I don't go and destroy them. If I'm going to have a match with them, I want to see what they have. And most of the time I'll throw them like, oh, it's a good throw. I'm gonna let them throw me. Oh, it's another good throw. I'm gonna let them throw me. I'm not fighting tournament style every match. I want to see what they have and I want to let them practice. Same thing if I have another student of ours, like say I'm working with little Matt, I worked him on what it was Monday. We did something. I say, I know you're hurt. Just throw me around. We moved around, and when he had a good throw, when he entered nice, he threw me.
It's like how you would treat a white belt too. That's they can't take the fall, so if you make them do a good throw.
Yeah, and then you get people like there's another Juan in our dojo. We call Big Juan because he's a freaking gorilla. It's just like it's like the Incredible Hulk, just smaller. So. But Juan, like we have a very friendly relationship. We're both Juans. We mess around a lot with each other. We enjoy each other's company. We talk shit to each other for the most part. He'll talk shit to me like, oh, Juan, you let that guy throw you? Oh, I thought you were a third Dan. You're supposed to beat everybody. It's like, it's not about beating everybody all the time, Juan. It's about letting people improve. And I'm not going to hurt myself just to get an Ippo and at practice. Okay. Yep. Oh, no. You let that brown belt throw you? Oh, ha, 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 ha. Brown belt, puny human. What the hell?
It's funny because he does talk like that.
Oh, puny human. Oh, call me a god. But yeah, so you get their ego that gets you like that. Yep. And when you see people on the mat fighting, then as you get older, then you get to someone that's like joining in their 50s or 60s, like, oh, I want to do that. I want to throw like that. I want to fight like that. And all you're going to do is end up hurting yourself, spraining your back, spraining your knee, pushing a disc out or something. It's like mutual benefit. It's practice.
Yeah, that's what I like about Philippe too, because he's had like double hip replacement, right? And he's gotten like messed up knees, but he knows what he can demonstrate, what the limits of his body is. He knows what he can and can't do. So, yeah, but you see a lot of black belts. They get to a certain age, maybe they're not as fit anymore, or maybe they had injuries, and then they either just don't train, like we talked about earlier, to just stop training, or they and just stand around, or they try and do stuff that they can't do anymore, like Uchimata, like.
You're obsessed with this Uchimata. I would think it's more like a complicated, like maybe Tai Toshi or something. I think that would be more harder to do when you're older.
So I'm not going to name the sensei, but it's not a negative experience, actually positive. There's a sensei around here that has a really, really good, he's known for his Hanegoshi, and I visited the dojo. And he was running class. I was surprised when I saw the way he moved, like the Uchikomi and everything. I'm like, this guy's not 70. What the hell? And he was demonstrating to us how to do Hane Makikomi. And he just lifted the guy up and put it back down, because he never executed the throw because that was his limit, right? He knows that's what he could do. And on the other end is, you see some senseis can't demonstrate it, but they try. And then now you have people ended up learning the wrong thing because you couldn't demonstrate it properly. Yeah. So, hey, you just have to know your limit, your ego and your limit and everything. Maybe have a younger guy who learned from you earlier when you were still able to do it, or someone else that has a good hanagoshi or whatever, and have them teach the throw or demonstrate it. So yeah, that's the ego part, I think. And just like many things, just like how when our parents tell us you shouldn't do this because you're going to regret it when you're older, and we're like, yeah, whatever, mom, like this is going to be one of those things where you don't, maybe some of you will get it, but I'm pretty sure most of you who are listening to it probably didn't even listen this far, or just are going to kind of brush it off. So
just be safe out there, people. It's all we're asking for. Just be safe. All right. Know your limit. Be safe. No matter how old you are. If you're a teenager up to a guy that's in their 90s and want to do judo, you have to know your limit. All right.
Yeah. Being able to push yourself hard mentally and physically is a hard skill, but being able to say no and finding your limit. You have to know your limit to be able to push it, right? So finding your limit itself is also a hard skill to get to, and should be something that's promoted more, other than just blindly grinding your health away. So,
all right. So is that it, Anthony? Anything else you want to talk about? That's it.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you stayed all the way to the end, we really appreciate it. We did put up some more videos on our YouTube channel. We're putting up a series right now about judo gis. We have one up right now already about the judo gi itself. This week, the judo gi video about judo gi versus BJJ gi, where the big differences, what are the pros and cons, and why certain things are certain ways on them. Explain all that. If you guys have any questions about it, have any suggestions, have anything you want us to talk about, please hit us up. You can hit us up on our Instagram at Tatami Talk. You can hit us up at Tatami Talk at Gmail. And if you want to follow me, you follow me at _Juan on Instagram. You can follow Anthony at Anthony Throws on Instagram. Anything else?
No, I'm glad you did the outro, because I'm like so tired. I know I'll be able to do it.
You can do it. All right. Thank you, everybody. Catch you on the next one.
Thanks. Bye.